and welcome to Gran Turismo Live and to these FI certified Gran Turismo 2018 championships. Today, it is the top 24 Superstars Americas region race. Round 8 of 10 in this final season of 2018. I am James Kirk, and alongside me, as he has been for the entirety of today, and I'm very glad so as well, Jimmy Broadbent. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, good. Thank you. Great to be here yet again alongside you.
And so we are recording. We're recording live here on Saturday, the 1st of September. And of course, we are going to be back again in a week's time for round 10 of 10. The rounds coming thick and fast. But today we're about to see 24 of the fastest racers in the Americas region battling it out for points. And, well, what is their objective? It's pretty simple, to finish in the top 30 of the Americas rankings so that at the end of this season they can qualify for the Americas regional final. We'll show you the points table in a moment, just to see who's likely to be racing. No definitive answer as of yet until we finally get into the lobby. But, Jimmy, it is very exciting stuff at this final stage of the season.
I mean, how can it not be exciting? I mean, we are in an FIA-backed championship on Gran Turismo. And now I've said this many times, but I remember playing Gran Turismo when I was just a wee boy, you know, with my PS1 and my terrible 4:3 ratio television, and never imagined that real-life motorsport and computer games, as they sort of were then, would clash. And now, of course, these are proper simulations and being taken seriously by the FIA. I mean, terribly exciting for someone like me.
It's a new era of motorsport in the strongest sense, and Gran Turismo very much leading the way in that category. We'll give you a very quick overview of the championship, just so you've got a better idea of what we're dealing with here. Jimmy, I'll let you start us off.
That's very kind of you, James. Appreciate that. So then, the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships are divided into two competitions, and they are what you can see on screen right now: the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series. Now, the championships, they're divided into three regions, as well as the Americas, which we're doing today. We have Europe, Middle East, Africa, and of course the Asia-Oceania region as well. So now we are coming to the end of the final season, and as you can see on screen, we then move to the live events, regional finals in October and the World Finals in November.
In the Nations Cup, the top 30 racers from each region will be invited to their regional final. There'll be a maximum of 10 players per country for the Americas region, and from those regional finals, 10 players from each region will make it through to the Worlds. That makes 30 Nations Cup competitors in total from around the world.
Now, we've gone over it before, but it's worth going over again. The winners of both Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series will be invited to the FIA prize-giving gala in St. Petersburg in December. While they're there, they'll receive their trophies alongside the champions of all other FIA series, including, of course, Formula One. Now, players in Gran Turismo Sport also get rewarded for sportsmanship and racing etiquette, as well as getting driver points. So it's important to be safe as well as fast.
Now, a reminder that this isn't a definitive list of who we're going to see tonight, but let's take a little look at the top 24 players in terms of points rankings.
So here they are popping up on your screen right now. We have IOF Racing 17, last time out winner in the broadcasted race. He's first, followed by Defsun 96 in second, and Nico R in third. Three mainstays there in our Americas series. We then have Gumball CGT fourth, with FT Solid, the Brazilian, in fifth. TRD Doodle in sixth, with FT Lloyd the Light in seventh. Hopefully he'll recover from those lag issues he had last time. And in eighth, we have Windfire 1010. Moving down from 9th to 16th, we have McQueen 91, followed by Dodge Lamb, the American. CRT Didico is 11th place, followed by Road Beef in 12th, with FT Hellfire in 13th. Lots of N's and Z's. He's in 14th, followed by Wards in 15th and Outlaw Quadrant in 16th. And rounding off our top 24, we have Z28, very well known in the Gran Turismo community, with I.E. Bramin in 18th, the Canadian. Hendricks, nice to see him back doing some Gran Turismo, it seems. In 19th, Jim Fakududu in 20th, the Argentinian, with AX4X Gearhead in 21st, Max King in 22nd, Turismo Leicester 23rd, and rounding up top 24, beating the odds, the Canadian in 24th position.
So preparations are almost complete. It's almost time to head into the top 24 Superstars Nations Cup race for the Americas region. But before we do that, Jimmy, let's take a little look at where we're going to be heading today.
Now, this one is a great circuit. You'll enjoy this. We're going to the south of France to race on the new Circuit de Sainte-Croix, created by the Polyphony team. Now, it's a very long circuit, almost 9.5 kilometres in length, with a mix of very challenging corners. Sort of looks like someone's got a very jagged pen when you look at it from the aerial point of view. But let me tell you, T3, a very tough over a crest right-hander, very easy to get understeer for that. T9 and T11, long sweeping corners, which is very bad for tyre wear. Your best overtaking opportunity is probably down to T12, long straight there, good for slipstreaming. Also T14 and T15 over that very iconic Sainte-Croix bridge as well. A good place to get the move done. And then, of course, you round off your lap on T19. Make sure to get a good run out of there, because otherwise you're going to lose time all the way down the straight. Now, we're going to be racing tonight Group 2 cars. Now, these cars are the equivalent to Super GT and DTM types of cars. Think those sort of regs. And after a 15-minute qualifying session today, we'll have a rolling start, and then 10 laps with fuel consumption set at 7 times, and then tyre wear set at 10 times. You also have this very fancy new pit stop graphic here. I like this, James. It's very
I like
nice.
it as well.
We have two different strategies for pits here, the 1 and the 2 stop. You're seeing it on your screen now for the 2 stop. The 1 stop comes bang in the middle on lap 5. And the great thing, James, is that we've seen both strategies be viable so far. We've had the Asian races, Oceania races, where we had a 1-stop driver win the race. And then in the European races, we had a 2-stop driver win the race. So really, it is anyone's game.
Anyone's game, indeed. Let's find whose game it is going to be tonight as we transport ourselves into the south of France to this fantasy circuit, which provides fantastic racing. It's the America's Top 24 Superstars race of the Nations Cup, round 8 of the final season of this FIA Gran Turismo Championship.
Well, here we are then, on circuit, James. Once again, back at the awesome Sainte-Croix circuit. Now, I must say, this being a new track, you always get a little bit apprehensive about new circuits, especially when they are original circuits such as this. This is a fantasy track set in France, of course. But having watched some of the laps from early, and of course various onboards from the course of the evening, I've got to say it's a very challenging circuit, especially for these Group 2 cars.
Absolutely, and one of the longest circuits of this season, 9.5 kilometers. There is not only a lot of places where you can get things wrong on the lap, but it also means that in the race there's a lot of opportunities to overtake, to grab some slipstream. We've seen brilliant racing across the 2 previous regions, and now it's time for the Americas to show what they've got. 15 minutes of qualifying on the clock. Once that timer hits 0, however, that is qualifying over. No chance to finish off that lap. For these guys, it's a long lap as well, so they need to get their timings right.
They do. We saw that earlier on in the European races. Of course, for us, this is after because of time zones.
Of course.
We're recording it a bit later than the European, Middle East and Africa region. We saw earlier, I'll start again at my original point, that there were some drivers who got caught out by how long the lap is. It is a 15-minute session, so you got a bit of time to get out there. As a Canadian there in the background goes a bit wide. I think that was Ibrahim in the background. Sorry, I said his name wrong earlier, didn't I?
Nice.
But some people got called out and actually didn't set a time, and actually that really affected their race. They ended up starting down 22nd, 23rd place, where really we expect to see them in the top 10. They then ended up finishing sort of mid-pack, which is not what you want to see, especially if you're looking for a serious effort here. So waiting a couple of laps for the times to come in. You're currently watching Z28, well, you're now watching Max King 39 in the NSX. Now, this is your favourite car, isn't it, James?
Oh, goodness me. I cannot profess my love for this Honda NSX enough. But to be fair, It's a car that is outnumbered immensely in this field, and especially in the Americas region, I see a lot of Nissans, I see a lot of Lexi in there. Very popular cars indeed. Not to say that the Honda isn't competitive, of course, but the trend that we tend to see with these Nations Cup races, Jimmy, is a lot of the field will identify a favourite, if not two, and they'll tend to stick with it. And often it doesn't damage the guys that go with that outside option too much, but you do pose the question in your mind of what they'd be capable of if they did choose one of the popular cars. And just for a reference for this broadcast as well, if you've not watched the European, Middle Eastern, African races, we will try our best not to spoil anything. We'll have little hints here and there, because of course we've picked up information which is very useful on this broadcast. But let's cast our minds back a week ago to Racing 17 and that incredibly dominant performance in Bathurst. You know what? This guy's on a roll, this guy's leading the points, and it'd be very surprising to see him fall off his roll now.
Well, I heard rumours that Racing 17 actually races in real life as well.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, given his performance, especially at Bathurst, of course, we have noticed over the course of doing these broadcasts, there are certain drivers that are suited better to certain types of cars. Of course, last broadcast, I should say, we were dealing with the Group 3 cars, which have a little bit less downforce, a little bit less power. Imagine the Group 2 cars basically being touring cars with a lot of downforce and a lot of power, and then you're not too far away from what you see on screen. Here is IRF Racing. He's opted for the Lexus this time around, so we'll see how he performs once we get a couple of laps on the board. Again, long lap here. Lap times we're expecting around the 2:45, 2:44 region, maybe even a 2:43 if you go extremely quickly. But we'll wait and see what these guys want to put in. I think our pole from earlier was a 2:40, a high 42, I want to say.
Stretching the mind now,
yeah,
Jimmy.
We've been doing this for a bit tonight.
It has been a long night, certainly.
But that's the sort of lap time you're looking for, regardless. And I'm sure these guys will put us right very quickly. Here's GT Academy now, 2013. I think holding on to past glories, maybe. I
was going to say, I was slightly taken aback by his name a week ago. I was thinking, hold on a second, is this just an AI profile or something that's been able to wiggle its way into the race? No, this is Academy 2013, and I imagine that he might very well have taken part in the GT Academy 2013. Just a hunch. No more hunches about the times, however. Starting to fly in now. 2:46.356 currently the best. Already beaten out by 5/10. There is Lloyd's Elite. Nico R now, the Chilean, comes in with a 45.3. I think, honestly, Jimmy, I think we're perhaps over expecting on this one. I think 44s would probably be all right. If they can get into the 43s, goodness me, they are flying. But then again, because of the nature of the circuit, because it's so long, it is possible to gain time, and that much as well.
Just how good my memory is, or our combined memory is pretty terrible, it seems. We did mention this earlier, we'll mention it again, that Slipstream can be in assistance round here. There are quite a few sizable straights on this circuit when you get up to speeds of over 260 k's easily. Having a Slipstream will help you get there a little bit quicker, and of course improve your lap time, but then you have to deal with the guy in front when you want to try and keep that time. Here is Nico R, our current provisional pole sitter, and doing very well in the standings right now, third in the standings, so he'll be looking to solidify that. Lloyd Zelite, again, we mentioned it very briefly earlier, had some terrible internet issues before.
Yeah.
I think he said something, he forgot to plug his cable in. He was running on wireless, which is never good.
That's a risky strategy in esports, let me tell you.
That is a sim racing no-no. You do not race with wireless internet, and if you do, you get out. That's it, you're done.
You don't commentate with wireless internet.
Like no. Don't do anything with wireless internet, essentially.
Well, hopefully he is plugged in this time. I mean, he's showing good pace up there in P3.
He had good pace last time as well.
He was in and around the top 10, wasn't he? I don't think he was up there at the very sharp end, but his problems were encountered early, so he could never really move up as much as he wanted to.
That, and he's got a great livery on that Nissan, the iconic Pennzoil livery. I think the back should be black and not white, but that's just me nitpicking there.
You can tell who's the Nissan fan.
But yeah, I always loved racing that livery, especially back in GT2. Ooh. Wow, okay, there it goes. That was Max King spinning coming on to the bridge. It's a very tricky corner, that. It might look a little bit easier on the broadcast, but in reality, you're going uphill, and it's you get understick. You're driving uphill. The car wants to push to the right because of the change in elevation, the change in gravity is sort of taking a little bit of pressure off as you go over the top of the hill there. So you think, you know what, I can go this very quickly. You hit the throttle, you find yourself understeering towards the wall, panic sets in, and then the barrier becomes your new best friend.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it's a good thing that they are there, because otherwise they'd be flying into the lake. A lake, which, so I found out today, hosts a town under there. So the original town of Saint-Croix, or Saint-Croix, there we go. It's French pronunciation. I did it for 5 years at GCSE, would you believe, and I still can't get the pronunciation
you should
right.
See how happy he is right now that
like,
he got to work in
no,
that
but
fact.
seriously, like, it's so cool. There's a town under there. The original town is under there. And also, let's just, no, I'll save the other fact for later in the race if we got a lull.
Keep him treat him mean, keep him keen, is what they say.
I love my stats and I love my facts, Jimmy. You can't draw me away from those. Well, our qualifying session is drawing nearer and nearer to that closure, though. 6 minutes left on the clock, and it's still Nico R on provisional pole position. Defsun 96, Canadian, very strong racers. Goodness me, almost drifting round turn one there, Nico R.
Big understeer,
Yeah.
front slid out there. Just a little bit too much entry speed from Nico. That'll scrub off a couple of attempts, no doubt. Fakudutu goes into 4th position. He's only 6/10 off our leader, who you're seeing on your screen right now. Now, something to take into account is that in qualifying sessions here, when the timer hits 0, that's your lot. There's no finishing the lap. That's just it. Session is over. So really, in order to get out for a decent qualifying lap, you need to have about 3 minutes or so left on the clock before you cross that start-finish line. Any less than that, and you aren't going to get round to complete the lap, unfortunately. Here we are. Here is Lloyd Zellite again, and that's very pretty looking at Nissan. Something else that's new for you, for maybe people watching this is our first broadcast this week. Yeah. You can just about see in the background Ibrahim there has a little red bar just under his name. That is the penalty, and you can see the amount of penalty. You just saw for a second it flashed in 1.7 seconds penalty. He has yet to serve. There it is. Great to see that on screen, and I very much like that feature. One, for us as commentators, because we can see how deep a trouble someone's in, and two, I think the guys in game can see that too. So they get there's a bit more strategy there. Going, okay, this guy in front's got a 6-second penalty. I'm going to harry him and stay with him, and I'll get the position at the end.
It means that our job of calling where people are actually in the order is made, excuse me, a little bit easier. And one thing I'm also noticing, Jimmy, actually, is talking about that whole qualifying setup, but once the time hits 0, that's it. In the EMEA region, we had a lot of drivers not setting early laps and finding themselves picking up penalties all over the place. It's a very different scene here in the Americas region. We do have, 4 drivers who have yet to set a lap time, but a lot of these guys have put in bankers. Now, what that means is that the gap between first and 10th we usually like to go to. It's a little bit bigger than what we saw in the last stages of the EMEA region, but at this stage we also saw lots of faster times coming in. So they've got those bankers in, they know where they are roughly with that lap time. I imagine that we're going to be seeing a lot of times tumbling in the next 3.5 minutes or so.
Yeah, not much in between them, though. Still just about a second, just over a second between first and 10th position, and on a lap that's this long, that's a second.
That is still very close.
A second isn't easy to find anywhere, but it's easy to find on a longer circuit. Coming across the line now, we have Turismo Leicester. Will he improve his lap time? No, he does not. I think he may be coming to a lap now. Z28 in the background as well there. He's currently on a 2:48. I'm sure he knows he can do a little bit better than that, of course. CRT Didico moves up into 7th position, a 2:46.4. Funny to think that a second quicker would put him into pole. That's just how close this field is.
Racing 17 down in 10th position. He's going to have to do a little bit of work. He's now down to 12th as the times tumble. McQueen up to 5th. Hell's Fire into 10th. And it's important to remember, actually, in this Nations Cup that the spots are limited for each of the nations, and as good a lead as Racing has in that points standings, we've got this race, we've got the Nations race round 9, and then we've got the final top 24 Superstars race round 10 in a week's time. I've seen championships lost in 3 rounds, Jimmy. I've seen championships lost in 1 round. Of course, the points advantage is great for racing, That much is established, but he cannot take his foot off the pedal as Defsun, yeah, and Lloyd Salit finding it very difficult around this circuit, losing it a little bit, and just showing actually how the undulation affects the cars. You've got to be on it at all times.
The front tyres particularly take quite a big beating around here. See Lloyd Salit going through one of the corners that causes that. There's a long left-hander and a long right-hander, and what you're doing during those corners is putting a lot of load on the outside front tyre, getting it very hot, and usually it makes it a little bit more useless for the corner next time around. So, as I mentioned earlier on as well, drivers who are maybe a bit softer on their tyres might find it a little bit easier to get round in one piece and find themselves in a nicer stead towards the end of their stint. We're coming now, James, to the last 90 seconds of qualifying. Here's Turismo Leicester. This will be his last lap. Anyone on the lap now, this is it. So really you want to be in the last half of this lap or you aren't going to set a time. So we've got Turismo Leicester there. Z28 who's looking to improve. He's down in 19th position right now. Not ideal. He has fallen back a little bit from Turismo Leicester on this lap, so that indicates that maybe not the fastest lap from him at the moment, but Leicester looking strong right now.
What I'm fascinated to see as well is the top 5 is completely, in fact the top 6 is completely locked out by Hondas and Nissans. There's 2 Lexuses actually in the top 10, which is very interesting considering how popular the Lexus is in this field. Defsun is in, he is not going to be improving. We look to Turismo and to Lloyd Salit here.
He was about a tenth off his best time. If he gets a nice tidy last corner, we'll go a bit fast. Turismo Leicester goes up to P5. Z28 does improve up to 18.
Oh!
There it is. He really improved for the last corner. Lloyd Salit, who had such an awful run of things last time in our last Superstar race, puts it on provisional pole, 2:45.2.
Powered by the Ethernet. How about that? Is there any other late improvers? I'm not seeing racing improve at all. In fact, is Facududu going to be the final guy across the line? He's not going to make it. No, and actually, caresses. He completely grinds against the wall, doesn't he?
He'll be banging his steering wheel frustration there. He got that just wrong in terms of timing there. So, but the thing is, 4th place is nothing to scoff at. That's still the 2nd row of the grid. So, great session there. IOF Racing, though, probably our story for that. Our leader down in 12th position, over a second off pole.
Well behind Defsun as well, his closest rival. What a comeback from Lloyd Salit, though, after so many issues in Bathurst, to come back and say, I not only deserve to be here, I deserve to be up the front. Pole by a 10th. He was so close in the end. Nico R must be kicking himself.
I think so. Luckily, he'll be starting on the 2nd row, though, and you might... this is a race of fuel saving. Now, we luckily had a little bit of time with one of the drivers earlier who told us that to realistically do a one-stop, you're going round on fuel mode 2.
Yeah.
The fuel modes go from 1 to 6, 1 being the leanest and 6 being the most rich, the most fuel, the most power. Fuel mode 2 and fuel saving, so shifting up for the gears early and just making sure you're maybe lifting and coasting, maybe being in the slipstream a bit. So those sort of things going on there. So that will be our one to watch. Nico R is in a good position for that because he's going to have a slipstream of Lloyd Salit. Lloyd Salit will be on his own, making sort of his own decisions based on the fact he has no one to be with.
Yeah. Well, here we are then. Top 24 superstars. The Nations Cup in the Americas region. We have had 2 brilliant races at this circuit so far. 2 different strategies winning out. That means that there is going to be 1 prevailing strategy with a 2-to-1 ratio, unless someone comes out of nowhere with a 3-stop. I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see that, are we? But it's going to be fascinating to see how this one turns out. And watch out at the start, because those fuel mode mixtures, they really do make a difference in the opening laps. And so let's take you through your grid then for this race at the Circuit de Saint-Croix. Variant A, by the way. There is various different variants, but we're running the main one here. And it is the Canadian Lloyd Salit in the Nissan on the pole position. The Honda NXS, though, of Nico R. He's going to want to try and beat him off the line. A fellow Honda in Defsun 96 lines up P3, and alongside him will be another Nissan. It's Facududu, the Argentine. Another Honda then is Turismo Leicester, improving late on to P5, and he was just able to beat out the Nissan of McQueen 91 in P6. Again, you're getting a real impression that it's going to be a real Nissan v Honda battle. The first of the Lexuses, Dodge Lam, all the way back in P7, and he's joined by a fellow Lexus, Didico 15, the Brazilian, there in P8. We then have Solid, a fellow Brazilian in P9. And rounding out the top 10, we have another Nissan, Hellfire JP. All of these guys ahead of their compatriot Racing 17. Before we get to him though, Gumball CGT in the Lexus, he's P11. And here is Racing 17. Story of qualifying, got to be down there in P12. NZ the Canadian, P13 in the Nissan. Alongside him will be Windfire 1010, the American. And behind, we can already see the Lexus is coming. Doodle, P15. And ahead, or behind him, I should say, Academy 2013, also in the Lexus. The Americans seemingly tending to prefer these. The Canadians definitely going with the Hondas and the Nissans, that's for sure. Ebrahim X7 in P17, with Outlaw Quadrant in the Nissan P18. P19 is Racing King. Will the Canadian take back his throne from that far down? Max King in the Honda rounds out the top 20. And finally, Z28 in another Honda is P21, with another Honda Gearhead behind him in P22. And the final row of the grid, we have Pure Cry in the Nissan, and plumb last in the Lexus, it's Project D1. A lot of work for him to do in this race.
Well then, so we'll hand it over to the AI, let them warm the tyres for this rolling start. Means that all cars will go off at roughly the same time as they come across the start-finish line as Lloyd Zerlite moves off. Again, that great Pennzoil livery. We start just before the final turn to give these guys a little bit of time. They'll be in their seats now preparing, whether they're using their wheels or controllers. Just a couple of deep breaths before the end, maybe a little bit of a drink before you get going. Just focus yourself, because this race matters.
10 laps ahead of us then. And the pressure most certainly building. Which strategy is going to prevail? Which race driver is going to prevail? Will we see penalties? Will we see incidents? All of these very valid questions are to be answered in the next 20, 30 minutes or so. Towards the line then we come. The lights illuminate above the drivers. And here in the south of France, we are racing. And it's a good start there from the roll by Lloyd's Elite. Although look at Nico R. I wonder what mixtures these guys are using, what strategies they have in mind. Nico R looking to attack straight off there with Defsun in behind. Fakududu though going very wide, a little twitch that might allow Turismo Leicester in. No, he decides to get off the gas a little bit. And Turismo Leicester not able to make hay while the sun shines. Back up to the front here, Nico R looking to pressure Lloyd's Elite, who he himself will want to be just running away as quick as possible, because if you get that gap, you can continue to short shift, you can continue to save the fuel. Turismo Leicester not able to capitalize on Fakududu's mistake, remains behind the Nissan for now, and I don't see many movers and shakers, to be honest, Jimmy. I think everyone taking it rather clean and rather safely at the start, which is good to see, actually.
I think a lot of them are thinking about strategy right now, just whether they want to be sitting behind somebody and saving that fuel for the attempted one stop, or being a bit more aggressive perhaps and trying to move up. We have Dodge Lam up into 7th position. He's taken the place there of CRT Didico. Here is Fakududu and Turismo Leicester close. Get a bit of contact there from Turismo Leicester. That could end up being a penalty. He looks to the inside now. A contact, big contact. Fakududu does a great job to keep that from spinning around. Turismo Leicester getting a little bit too punchy in the first part of this race, and now that allows them to be mobbed by McQueen in the background and Dodge Lam. Nearly 3 wide going down the straight. Fakududu goes to the inside, Leicester to the outside, followed by Dodge Lam looking to the extreme inside, tries to do both of them in one. Is he going to make it? He doesn't make it. Fakududu gets dumped onto the grass, and McQueen goes up into 6th, followed by Didico. Fakududu the big loser there.
There's a man using mode 2. You can see it from a mile away, unfortunately. Fakududu, oh my goodness, another major slip there. Falling down the order. Racing 17, he's actually made up a position to P11, but Hellfire now moving back up to Fakududu. Yeah, he's definitely gone up there into P9, although he's picked up a penalty at the front here. Another man who's picked up the penalty is Lloyd's Elite, however. Nico R takes the lead, while Lloyd's Elite takes up 4/10 of his penalty. So now it's only a 10th, Jimmy, but already the track limits claiming a couple of victims.
It's easy to do that around here. There are a lot of flat curbs, and it invites confidence, and of course sometimes confidence ends up with you being bitten by the circuit. So right now, yeah, Defsun is right on Lloyd Zalit. I think Lloyd Zalit is trying to get rid of his penalty and maybe trying to be behind there. Look at Defsun there, really wringing the neck of that NSX through the penultimate corner, coming down now to the last corner to round off the first of our 10 laps. Now, this might seem like a bad place for Lloyd Zalit to be. You might think, oh, he's lost the lead. But now he has a slipstream of Nico R. He can control how much fuel he saves. We saw people in the European race struggling, Dodge Sedan, to the inside of Turismo Leicester, using that higher fuel mode just to pull past him like it's absolutely nothing, up into 4th place. Leicester looks back at Dodge Lamb, doesn't quite make a move back there to take his position. But as I was saying, we saw it in the last European race that people struggled. Some of them actually ran out of fuel into the pit lane, costing them seconds and seconds of time. So it's really on the edge with fuel management for that one stop.
There was some wonderful fuel management, and there was some slightly worrying fuel management. Slightly worrying there was Turismo Leicester almost finding the barriers. He was immediately under pressure from Dodge Lamb. Now he's under pressure from McQueen, who throws it up the inside.
Thank you very much.
He just escorts Turismo Leicester to the edge of the track there. Beautiful move from the Chilean. He's up into P5.
Yeah, excuse me, he says. I'm not waiting around while you're having more mistakes. And guess what? That backs him into CRT Didico, who does have a penalty, but still looking feisty. Now, Lloyd Zalit still in 2nd place from Defsun. That's actually allowed Nico R to pull away a little bit. Looks like
2.1.
That suggests to me that Nico
Mode
R
1.
is running a faster strategy, be mode 6.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
For the strategy there, but he's going for the 2-stop, just trying to get some time between himself and the guys behind. Now, what will Defsun do here? The strategic thing is to stay behind, keep the boost low, and save some fuel. Will he do that? Defsun, yes he is, gives him a little push down the straight to say, hello, it's me. But also at the same time, bump drafting, a tactic in stock car racing gets you a bit faster down the straight, although you do run the risk in GT Sport of picking up a penalty if you're maybe a bit too forceful with your bump.
Oh, McQueen falling down the order hard. Why is that? Turismo Leicester going wide as well. Didico with a massive penalty there, 3 seconds. I can only imagine that might have been an incident initiated by him. Let's have a little look. Oh, McQueen goes off the track there.
He made a mistake
He
there.
made a mistake, and Didico with a little bit of lag, I feel, and it was from that contact with Turismo Leicester that he picked up the penalty.
That's what happens around here. You've got to be careful. Of course, all these guys racing from all around the world. Sometimes there are some mild technical issues. Luckily, they aren't too bad most of the time. Good to see that Lloyd Zalit has got rid of most of his penalty now, down to he owes less than a 10th of a second, so he can get rid of that when he likes. But is being absolutely harried by Defsun. I wonder if Defsun feels like he's being held up a little bit here. I mean, we did see him sort of coast off a little bit when deep in the slipstream of Lloyd Zalit. But we won't really get to know fuel numbers until they pit in. We have to wait for that until we get a good idea. But look how many cars are in your picture right now. 6th down to about 13th place, sorry, 5th down to about 13th, 14th place, all in the same screen at once. These guys are really pushing right now, but a lot of them don't really have anywhere to go. They can't really get past, they can't move up the traffic jam.
You know, there's one thing I absolutely love about these Americas lads already, and that's that they do not leave a single thing off the track. It is all commitment all the time, and it generally leads to some very entertaining things. Academy 2013, he's been in the wars as well. 4.5 seconds of penalty picked up here down in P15, and he's battling away in this long train. Max King in the Honda just ahead of him. But unfortunately, 4.5 seconds, Jimmy, in these sorts of close conditions is a lot there, as in the background, that was Racing King and NZ also getting into a tangle. These boys, I said they're not leaving anything off the track. It seems like they're looking to go into punch-ups on the track as well. Goodness me.
It just goes to show you it doesn't matter where in the field you are, there is close and competitive racing. That was a fight down for 16th position. So these guys are really, I mean, points matter in these races.
Back there in P8, is that Racing 17 making his way past McQueen? I think it might very well be, yeah.
It has happened. He's up to 8th position. That's IOF Racing 17. You might be thinking, who is this guy? He is the current leader of the Americas region in the nations there. So expecting a strong performance from him. Looks like Lloyd Zelight has managed to actually pull out a little bit of a gap here over Def Sun. That'll give him a little bit of breathing room, but most importantly, top of the field, Nico Wara is checking out. 4.6 seconds. That thing has either turned up or he's turned up. His best lap so far, a 2:45.7, much faster than anyone else on circuit. Much faster.
2.3 seconds at the very least faster than anyone else on circuit. If that man...
That's faster than some qualifying times.
That is faster than some qualifying times. You are absolutely right. I think this guy is going for a one-stop strategy, Jimmy.
I think he's trying to turn the dial past 6 at the moment.
He's trying to get to the end of the race before it finishes. And looking on board now. Oh, that's a little bit of a squiggle under braking from Lloyd Zelight, but actually in that little squiggle, he just got rid of the rest of his penalties.
I think he grabbed the curb on the way in there. The curbs are not very grippy here. Purposely, so you don't end up abusing them too much, of course. So grabbing that on the way in the braking zone isn't really a good thing. A lot of these guys don't run traction control. We got a nice mention of that when we were asking for tips and tricks from the drivers to let us know, get us more in depth and get us more into the driving of these cars. And a lot of guys don't run traction control. Quite a few of them are on a wheel, but there are guys on gamepads too. Yep. And I've used to be a gamepad racer. James, you are a gamepad racer.
I am a gamepad racer, yeah.
And I can tell you that it is just as challenging as being on a wheel. It's just a different sort of challenge.
And actually, quick shout out to everyone. Thank you so much for all of the positive feedback and kind words about the first full broadcasts going up live. We very much appreciate all the comments. We hope to see them coming. Speaking of coming, however, Racing 17 goes right up the inside there of his compatriot Solid, and there was really no chance of a response there from the Brazilian. And actually, looking at responses, we've got some pitters already maybe responding to their situation in the midfield. We're expecting the first of the two stoppers, lap 4, lap 5, but lap 4 is relatively early for that strategy still, Jimmy.
Well, it's lap 3 or 4 for the two stop, so they're...
good point, yeah.
So they're coming in early. Lap 4, of course, still viable, which will be the end of this lap, and that's when we'll know who is two stopping and who is one stopping. Now, we've had some people who have gone for the one stop, made mistakes, and ended up doing two stops instead, and still making it work. So the thing is, when you commit to the two stop, there's not really much going back. Whereas if you commit to the one stop, you still do have that option to come in and pit. You just lose a little bit of time. Now looking at Def Sun in that NSX again, the gap between himself and Lloyd Zelight hasn't really changed all that much. A big old penalty there for Def Sun. I think I know where he got that. There is a very difficult downhill right-hander. It's blind, quite a tight right, and there's a big flat curb on the inside, on the outside. Go too wide there, you cut it, bam, penalty straight away. So that's going to be a big blow there, and Dodge Lamb, who's just behind him, is going to be smiling.
Racing 17 down to P13. What happened there? We're going to have a little look with Def Sun now. Or are we going back to... Let's
having a look at how far this is...
Racing, yeah. Racing must have picked up a penalty because you can see him there on the inside serving the entirety of that penalty there and then. And Faku Dudu as well with a massive penalty. The Americas guys really stretching the limits of the time difference between first and second, though. Nico R, whatever you put in your cornflakes this morning, sir, I want some of that. 7 seconds the gap now. Surely he can come in and pit hassle-free.
We'll have to see. He'll still owe, if he's doing the two stop, he'll owe another stop, and it's impossible to see him not doing the two stop given his pace at the moment. He's still much faster than anyone else on track. Last lap around he was nearly 2 seconds faster than the nearest person on track, so it just goes to show how much he's pushing at the moment, and that says to me that he's got to be playing with a little bit of extra power. We're going to see very soon now, because on our mini map we can see he's just coming round the final corner. Here he is. Does he peel into the pit lane? Yes, he does. So two stop there, one correct call. Now what does Lloyd Zelight do? Does he follow him in? No, going for the one stop, but Def Sun comes into the pits. That's very interesting. That's a split strategy there now. So we now have essentially Lloyd Zelight versus Nico R for different strategies. He's the leading two stopper, and again Nico R is the leading one stopper. So again, James, just like the race before, we are seeing a decent split. Quite a few people coming in for this two stop,
but not. There was a significant amount more.
We have
in
more one
the
stoppers
EMEA region. Oh, really? Well, there's more two stoppers, I think, than in this particular situation. But I agree with you. One stop does seem to be the favoured way to go. we'll see where that spits Lloyd's Elite out into the grander scheme of things. We're on board now looking at Faku Dudu with that 3.8 penalty. And if I'm McQueen, I'm thinking, even if I'm on the one-stop strategy, got to be looking good here, because a lot of the guys around me, they're picking up unnecessary penalties.
They are, but of course they can be served during the race. It's still having to give up time, but that is the case. I wanted to very quickly say that the very traditional term of the undercut is a thing here, of course. People staying out on the one-stop, they're staying out for another lap on worn tyres. The car's lighter, so maybe you can make the use of that a little bit, but the worn tyres come into play. Remember, it's 10 times tyre wear around here, around a circuit that is nearly 3 minutes long. So imagine doing another 10 laps around there, and that's the tyre wear you are getting. So people who are coming into the pits, even though they're full of fuel and heavy, they're going to have a lot more agility in that tyre, a lot more grip in that tyre, and able to pull back a little bit of time that the two-stop inevitably costs you.
I was saying about how nice a position McQueen was in. He's now just... he's now picked up a penalty of himself, of course.
There you go. He's listening to you.
He's listening in, and he's like, oh, I want James to be wrong. Down then into this incredibly difficult section, and I am surprised by how many people have A, gone wide here, and B, had lots of trouble. But it's such a deceiving corner, isn't it? Because you've got to flick it in and then flick it out again. A very Mickey Mouse style of chicane, but the speed at which you're taking it is incredible, Jimmy.
It is, but luckily these cars are equipped with quite a bit of downforce. You might think the rear wing looks a little bit small in the back there. The reason for that being is it's only allowed to be as wide as the original car. Body kit, though, does not count, hence why the body kit seems a little bit bigger. But still, these cars produce a significant amount of downforce, and compared to a Group 3 car, probably about 8-9 seconds a lap faster around here, if not a little bit more, just because of that the cornering speed. Also, these things are super powerful as well, so that's what makes it a bit more tricky around here. When you take a course with barriers either side, street circuit-esque almost, and then you put these really powerful cars around, you tend to find people make a few mistakes every now and then.
Speaking of mistakes, I was just having a gander at where our two-stoppers were. Nico R there, in P5, has picked up a penalty in the meantime. Lloyd's Elite now coming in for what we believe is to be his one stop. I imagine that this will be the same now for Turismo Leicester, 4 Solid as well. They all follow each other in. Faku Dudu as well follows in, so it's going to be Nico R then. He's only got half a second of penalty, so it's not actually as bad as we were potentially thinking. And he is going to retake the lead of this race now. The question is, how far behind does Lloyd's Elite come out? Because ultimately it will be that gap. And look at this. He comes out right behind. A triple header of a battle. Dodge Lam in there, Didico in there, and Defsun in there, all battling away. He has lost time, yeah, absolutely.
It's, well, I'm unsure if these are the two. I think these are the two stoppers in front, but either way, this is not where he'd want to be. Lloyd's Elite obviously has a little bit of pace. As Defsun again, a little bit squirrely on the exit there. He's going to want to try and get through these guys as quick as possible. Defsun should be a bit quicker right now, so he should fall back a tiny bit, given that he's on a bit more fuel than these guys. But still, coming out of traffic is never a good thing. You want to have as much clear track as possible, and having 3 cars fighting in front of you is far from a clear track.
What do we reckon is the time for a pit stop here on this second stop, Jimmy? Because Defsun is roughly 9-10 seconds behind Nico R.
I don't think that will be enough for Nico R.
For Nico R or for Lloyd's Elite in terms of overtaking him on the one-stop strategy?
Apologies for basically that'll put Lloyd's Elite into the lead at this point. This is where, because it's no way a 9-second stop. You have to come in, slow down, tyres on, fuel on, out you go. Probably near about 15-18 seconds around there. So this is where Nico R needs to push. He needs to make the most of having the lighter fuel load, of having the fresher tyres, and just going as quick as he can. Meanwhile, Didico, 3rd position there. We are following as Defsun at 96. A great on-board section this. It gets a little bit tighter towards the right. So a couple of guys go off here on this very tricky right-hander. The braking isn't ideal. You have to then bring it into its barrier on the inside. Get as close as you can without touching it and accelerate nicely for this small straight. Coming over this very tricky over-the-crest left-hander. You see the cars a little bit off camber through there, but handled well there by our top 5.
There is a curse on this outlap. I'm certain of it, because Lloyd's Elite's now picked up a 2.8 second penalty, and that might have just thrown a real spanner into his works if he comes out in front of Nico R.
Something we found is that the penalties tend to come on the latter sits. Ooh, was that? That was Didico there having a little bit of fun in the background. They're all starting to push a bit too hard now. The thing is, if you're on a two-stop, you're thinking, right, I've got to go now. I've got to go as quick as I can, because I do not want to have to pit and then come out behind one of the guys on the one-stop. The thing is, the race isn't over if that happens. You still have about a lap or two to try and take the lead back, of course, but it's all about extending the gap as now. So right now, Nico R is in a good position for that. He's got 10 seconds from the nearest competitor, who is Dodge Lamb behind. The ones to watch is FT Lloyd Elite in 5th position. He is currently about 12, 13 seconds off the lead. Right now, that's not enough, I don't think.
Yeah, he's fallen out of the slipstream of Death Sun ahead, and that is because he simply has to be on a more conservative fuel mixture, and you can see how much it is changing his gearhead there, coming into the pits already on what is lap 6 for him. I imagine that the two stoppers are going to be coming in, if not this lap, then next lap at the very latest. I think lap 7 is really the ideal one then. It's just a 3-lap sprint until the finish. For Lloyd's Elite, he needs to keep it at around 12, 13 seconds, otherwise we might very well see Nico R coming out into the lead of the race, and as things stand, with a smaller time penalty as well.
We'll see, I imagine we'll see Nico R at the end of next lap. We'll have to see if he comes in towards the end and basically see what happens. This is part of it though, it's trying to gauge what everyone else is up to, and right now it's seeming like it's a little bit random, a bit of a random roll of the dice at the moment.
Fascinating. Very fascinating indeed. So, as things stand, Nico R, Dodge Lamb, Didico, Death Sun, those top 4 all have to come in again. Lloyd's Elite is the leaders of that one-stop strategy. I'd say, I'm confident in saying that he is probably going to be the closest guy to taking the race win. But that 2.7 second penalty, and keep in mind as well, at the end of the race, it's not only going to be the fuel which he's saving, but the tyres as well. We go back to people without penalties though. NZ, after his early troubles, he's found himself up in P8. It goes down to P9 very rapidly though, as the wily Turismo Leicester makes his way through, I imagine, on a higher boost mode, most certainly.
These are big penalties up front here. We've got 4 seconds, 4.2 seconds, another 4 seconds on top of us now as Death Sun. I'm not quite sure what these guys are up to. I'm just probably still exploring track limits, it seems, and unsuccessfully. We're probably going to see a couple of cars come in now towards the end of this lap, and we might see our leader Nico R come into the pits. We're still on board right now. We were on board with Death Sun. We're now with FT Solid in the GTR. A little bit of work to do to catch the guys in front. You can see they're just clouting the barrier on the way through. Gives us a very nice spark show, but might have given a little bit of a jolt in his wheel if he was using a wheel, or a bit of force feedback in his gamepad there. He's currently trying to chase down NZ. Being in the top 10, fairly impressive here. Someone who has
Nico R in.
Oh, Nico R is in there, you go. So he came in with 6 litres left of fuel, so could have used a bit more fuel, I think, but don't want to run it too close round here. Now, where does he compare to FD Lloyd? Here comes Lloyd.
Man, that was a late call from Dodge Lamb. He was waiting to see what was happening with the guys behind. Lloyd's Elite, he comes through. Where is Nico R? Nico R is nowhere to be found on exit, so Lloyd's Elite does take the lead of this race. Nico R comes out 3.7 seconds behind. As things stand, Lloyd's Elite is fully in the lead of this race, but he's got to save fuel, he's got to save tyres, and he's still got to serve that penalty. Nico R, the advantage is very much with him at this moment.
We've seen the pace from Nico R.
Yep.
We've seen what he can do. We've seen that he can pull back a gap when need be. So it really is between these two now. Lloyd's Elite and Nico R both belong to the same team, if their tag is anything to go by. But I'm sure there'll be no love lost. Of course, they're both fighting to get through to the last, to the regionals, which at the moment they're both doing a very good job of. Nico R has the substantially smaller penalty though, and already he's gained back about a second on Lloyd's Elite on this first half of the lap. So really looking very quick out there. Lloyd's Elite on older tyres, having to save fuel, as you mentioned before, James, and really has the car under him that I think he'd rather swap cars right now with Nico R. That's how it'd be feeling in there. Look at this gap just coming flying down. So again, we'll mention the phrase that catching someone is one thing, getting by is quite another. thing is, round here, I'm not sure Murray had access to the fuel modes there.
No.
Catching someone's one thing, fuel mode, and it's done. There you go. That's the amended phrase.
Furthermore, I don't think that real-life drivers had to deal with on-track time penalties floating above their head as well. It's a fascinating and brilliant AI system, which really does make things fair. And Nico R, what he has to do is get within 3.1 seconds, which he has done and is continuing to eat into. It was 3.8 seconds on pit exit. As we're heading into sector 3, it's down to 2 seconds, sub 2 seconds even. Nico R is flying here in France.
This is where you'll see the tyre advantage through this section. A series of long right-handers that really scrub at the left front tyre if you aren't careful. Of course, now Lloyd's Delight, his tyres are quite a bit older now than Nico R's. Watch that gap come down. It's just every time you see it, another hundredth is just peeling off right now. And I'm sure Lloyd's Delight will be thinking, okay, here comes Nico. What am I going to do when he gets here? Because he has a penalty. Realistically, if things finished how they were now, if this were the last lap, Nico R will likely be your winner because of the penalty on top of Lloyd's Delight right now. So he's got to try. For his race, he has to somehow find a way to serve this penalty, keep Lloyd behind him for 2 more laps. And I'm just not seeing that happening, James.
He's pretty much hoping, praying that Nico R is going to pick up a time penalty of himself. That is the only way that I can see this going Lloyd's Delight's way. Less than a second, the gap now. This is, I know that it's helped by the strategy, but goodness me, Nico R, 2:45.3 his best lap is. Absolutely flying. And one man that we've not even mentioned in recent laps is Turismo Leicester, who's working that 1 lap strategy as well. He's got no time penalty at the moment as Nico R, speaking of time, it's flying for him. He's having a great time. Look at the flash of the lights. He's told him to go.
Yeah, come on, mate, get out of the way. I'm on your team. Come on, dude. Get out of it. Will Lloyd's Delight give it to him? Right now, he's looking quite stalwart on that racing line. Will he stay there? This little dip to the right now, great corner through here if you've got fresh tyres. Look at the difference there, he's being backed up by the GTR, there's no way through, but now we come around the long right-hander onto the back straight. This is where the engine modes makes a difference.
Oh my goodness.
Already past him, there you go, look at the NSX go in a straight line. Little bit flashing the lights, say thank you, but the GTR is not giving up. Mode got up to full here, coming down, almost banging doors. They do bang doors. Here we go into the left-hander. Who's going to have it? Nico R goes round the outside of Lloyd's Elite. What a move by Nico R.
Flat out threat instead on the side of his car, and 2 right as well. Brilliant move from the Chilean Nico R. Let's get a replay on that. Mode 6 engaged, flies past Lloyd's Elite, and brilliant work there. Behind, the battle for the podium intensifies. Not only has Dodge Lamb gotten past Turismo Leicester, Def Sun has as well, but look at the size of those time penalties still. All Turismo Leicester has to do is stay within the slipstream of at least Def Sun, and surely 3rd is secured.
Yeah, but you always want to do it on track first, just to make sure you definitely have it, of course.
Oh, but he's on the 1-stop though, Jimmy. That's the problem. He doesn't have any weapons at his disposal. He's just got to try and keep up.
This is the downside to using the 1-stop, is you're sort of limited to a fuel mode to the end of the race. I wouldn't be surprised if that little burst by Lloyd's Delight on the straight might have cost him towards the end of the race. Might have to now go down to fuel mix 1, which is the leanest and the slowest of the mixes. So here is Def Sun, the gap between the 3rd, 4th and 5th. Here's CRT Didico in the background as well. Now he's actually gaining on this little pack a little bit, so he's someone to watch out for. We come on to the final lap for Nico R and Lloyd's Delight, and here comes Dodge and Def Sun coming onto their final lap. And this is the great thing about having 2 different strategies at play at once, is they all start coming to a climax right at the end of the race, which makes it very fun for us to call as commentators.
You know what, Jimmy? I think Lloyd did the right thing there, because he knows how many people have probably gone off of that corner and gained a time penalty, and he was thinking, if Nico makes 1 mistake in this move, he's going off and he's picking up the time penalty that I need. Nico has just shown us...
Does that say 12 seconds there on Faku Dudu as a time penalty? It does say 12 seconds, so that is not a good run for the Argentine.
Double digits!
I think he's been, I'm not sure if he's taken a shortcut somewhere or something, but he's going to be ending up way down from 7th. So FT Solid is probably wondering, come on, dude, get out of the way. You're going to just be waiting on the line for a long time. But anyway, speaking of penalties, Dodge Lam and Def Sun. In the background, by the way, Didico is gaining on Turismo Leicester, unsurprisingly. He's on the 2-stop. Nice to see, though, at the top of the field, that first and second are 2 and 1 stops. So both strategies there shown as viable, although it does seem the 2-stop has done slightly better in this, if you judging by the pit numbers on the left there.
And that means that the 2-stop overall from all 3 regions wins out 2-1. Of course, we need to make it to the line first. Let's not count our chickens just yet.
Will Def Sun do anything here? He's a little bit far back. You can see top speeds 280 k's, 290 k's, nearly 300 kilometers now before hitting the anchors before the 100-meter mark. He does close in significantly on Dodge Lam there on the brakes, but still not close enough. Now Def Sun has less of a penalty than Dodge Lam. Goes up the inside. Well, absolutely sends it. That stamp was lit, but then didn't quite manage to keep it there. I think Dodge Lam's throwing
behind! Look at that! It's Turismo Leicester and Didico going into contact as well, and Didico comes off better. I do not know who initiated that contact, but oh my goodness, and Didico into the wall as well. Let's take a little look then. It was on the exit here, and oh yeah, it was Didico behind, going into the rear end of Leicester. And you know what? I think they have exchanged positions because Didico lost it on the bridge.
We just cut to the replay just as that happened there, but he went into the wall again over that very tricky left-hander, and that's going to allow Turismo Leicester to come into 5th. FT Solid now behind him with a 1.3-second penalty, but our leader coming across the line. It has been a fantastic race for Nico. We had a bit of a doubt when he came out behind Lloyd's Delight, but he managed to make it work. 2-stop strategy, gets rid of his penalty, and Nico R wins here at the St. Croix circuit.
Behind then, Lloyd's Elite. He has to serve that 2.5-second penalty. That is going to be plenty of time to the boys behind. Who is going to get this 3rd position, though? Because of that contact, Turismo Leicester is no longer in that fight. It's Dodge Lam who takes the podium ahead of Def Sun 96. Didico, that little bit of contact did bite him at the end. Turismo Leicester picking up P5. It's then a Brazilian trio of Didico, Solid, and Racing 17. He had such a bad qualifying, and he followed it up with an inconsistent race. 9th, Windfire 10-10, and despite the 12 seconds of penalty that he had to serve, Faku Dudu rounds out the top 10, Jimmy.
I think he's paying someone somewhere. I have no idea how he got that, but not a terrible race by our leader, Racing 17. To finish 8th here, I think he didn't seem too competitive, didn't have a great qualifying session, so to come home in 8th is not bad at all. But the spoils, of course, go towards this man. Nico R in the NSX. James will be very happy with that, earning 4,195 points. He'll be very, very happy with that inside his virtual helmet. Go and spray some virtual champagne, Nico R. You deserve it.
And you know what the best thing is, Jimmy? I've finally figured out that FT stands for Flat Out Threat.
Well, there you go. That is the best thing to take away from this race, I think. No, I'm joking. It's a great race, of course. Here are your final standings, in case you were wondering. TR Doodle.
Doodle.
He looks like he disconnected earlier on. Plus 8 laps, which is a shame. So then, winners and losers, James.
Winners undoubtedly Nico R, Lloyd's Elite as well, to come back from such a troubling race in Bathurst in the last top 24 superstars, to come home on the podium, to challenge for that win. He's got to be happy with that. And certainly Dodge Lam and Def Sun, I was thinking surely they're going to be beaten out by Turismo Leicester, but Didico had other ideas. That little tag on the end of Turismo Leicester ensured that the American and the Canadian respectively picked up more good points. Surely one of the biggest losers. Well, it's not so much a big of a loss in the grand scheme of things. Racing 17, I think we were just so blown away by his form in the earlier races that to see him down there in 8th, it's a genuine surprise.
Yes, I think so too. But we did mention, of course, that we are on a different group of cars today, and he wasn't too far. I've actually taken P7 there off for the countryman FT Solid. Otherwise, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a sort of a happy and sad occasion for Lloyd's Delight. He did, of course, qualify on pole, so you think, oh yeah, I can follow this up now, but just didn't really have. I think maybe the 2-stop was the fastest strategy in this race, of course. So not quite the race he wanted, but still second place. That's still great points.
Absolutely, and for Faku Duda as well, surely got to be my final winner there. To serve 12 seconds of penalty and still finish inside the top 10. It's rather bizarre. And as much as we would love more bizarre things to happen, I'm afraid that does bring to an end this broadcast of the America's Nations Cup Top 24 Superstars race. This is round 8, a reminder of the final season of 2018. There's only 2 more rounds left. Round 10, of course, the last Top 24 Superstars race. And that is going to be next Saturday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. East Coast time. We're certainly going to be there, and we're certainly going to be hoping for more incredible racing action like that. Time to close things off, though. A very big thank you to all of you out there watching. A very big thank you to you, Mr. Jimmy Broadbent, for joining me today. I've been James Kirk, and from all of us here, it is a very warm goodbye.